As for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News, I'm Mark Broom. Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. Going it alone. With no response from North Korea, South Korea begins the process of recovering Korean War remains from within the DMZ. Both sides had agreed to do the pilot program together last September. President Moon Jae-in meets his close aides at the top office. There's a chance he might reveal more about the upcoming summit with his US counterpart Donald Trump. He might also touch upon the withdrawal of two of his minister nominees. Plus, ready or not, the grace period for companies in South Korea violating the 52-hour work week is now over. Firms found to be breaking the rules will be penalized. Our top story this morning, South Korea has begun to recover the remains of soldiers killed during the Korean War within the DMZ. They started earlier today, this without North Korea's participation. This, however, comes after the defense chiefs of the two Koreas signed a comprehensive military agreement last September aimed at reducing military tensions, although the two sides back then said they will jointly recover the remains in April. As a pilot program, South Korea's military sources say they weren't able to get a response from North Korea on the matter. Sources added the South has begun the process at Arrowhead Hill, the site of one of the fiercest, bloodiest battles during the war. Seoul's Foreign Affairs Minister Kang Kyung-wha returned from the US on Sunday, where she met with her American counterpart for the first time since the Hanoi summit. Kang said she and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo discussed the latest developments surrounding the Korean Peninsula and other bilateral issues, including the summit between the two countries' leaders coming up in less than 2 weeks' time. She said they agreed that the priority now is for the US and North Korea to resume their talks and that they have to closely watch for the North's next steps. North Korea has made its first official comment on the recent break-in at its embassy in Madrid, the Spanish capital, and it's not ruling out rumors that the FBI might have been involved. Kang Kyung-wha with the details.
North Korea called the break-in at its embassy in Spain a grave terrorist attack. The North Korean Central News Agency reported Sunday that its foreign ministry said such an act should not be tolerated anywhere in the world. The ministry also said it's closely watching rumors that the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation played a role in the raid conducted by an anti-North Korea group. In the same statement, the regime claimed that its embassy officials were bound, beaten, and tortured, and it asked the Spanish authorities for a thorough and responsible investigation, adding that it will wait patiently for the result. On February 22nd, a group of people broke into the North Korean embassy in Madrid and took computers and communication devices. Responsibility for the raid was claimed by a mysterious group calling itself Free Joseon, who are apparently committed to overthrowing the Kim dynasty. They said they shared some of the information obtained from the embassy with the FBI. But Free Joseon said the break-in involved no violence. The U.S. State Department has denied any involvement in the raid. The FBI has only said that it's cooperating closely with the Spanish authorities and refrained from further comments. Spain has issued 2 international arrest warrants for the main suspects. Kang Kyung-wha, Arirang News.
The defense chiefs of South Korea and the US will meet in Washington on Monday, local time. Seoul's Defense Minister Jung Kyung-do and acting US Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan are expected to touch upon pending issues such as the transfer of wartime operational control. Another highly anticipated topic are the combined military drills later this year and the Allies' latest Dongmeng Joint Exercise, which replaced the Key Resolve Command Post exercise. They're also expected to discuss the security situation on the Korean Peninsula post-Hanoi summit and come up with follow-up measures. Now, President Moon Jae-in, during his weekly meeting with his senior aides, is likely to talk about his upcoming summit with his US counterpart, as well as the recent pullout of two of his ministerial nomination picks. It's highly likely that the president might actually comment about the possible agenda for his meeting with US President Donald Trump, which is less than a fortnight away now. The South Korean leader may also speak on why he withdrew his nomination for the new science minister over the nominee's participation in an international conference that was deemed inappropriate. On top of that, the presidential office announced President Moon's pick for land minister voluntarily resigned over alleged housing speculation, leaving 5 minister nominees named in the latest cabinet reshuffle. The grace period for companies in South Korea violating the 52-hour work week is now over. According to the Ministry of Employment and Labour, companies that have 300 or more employees will be penalised if workers are found to have worked more than 52 hours in a given week. Since the regulation was first introduced in July, out of 392 companies inspected, 20%, 1/5, were found to have been violating the regulations. Companies that have difficulty shortening their working hours due to the current flexible working system will be exempt from penalties until the implementation of the Flexible Work Expansion Act. Now, starting today, South Korea, the government here, is banning supermarkets, department stores and large stores from giving out single-use plastic bags. And this is aimed at cutting down plastic waste here in the nation. But apparently it might take some time for the nation's shoppers to get used to this big change in policy. Our Oh Se-young reports.
Large stores in South Korea are no longer providing single-use plastic bags, in line with a government policy aimed at protecting the environment. The law went into effect on Monday across 2,000 large supermarkets, department stores and shopping malls, as well as 11,000 grocery stores larger than 165 square metres.
So the next time you go shopping, you'll have to bring a reusable shopping bag like this one, or purchase a recyclable paper bag.
Plastic roll bags in particular have been used by Korean shoppers to carry fruit and vegetables and other pick-and-choose items like baked goods. But from Monday, stores caught giving them away will be fined over $2,600. Exceptions have been made for products that can leak or melt, such as ice cream or packs of tofu. For many shoppers, the policy will take some getting used to.
It's so inconvenient. How are we going to carry our groceries now? It's a problem, especially for older people like me.
I try to carry a reusable bag when I can, but sometimes you're in a hurry. I think the policy is too strict.
Other shoppers say they're on board with the ban.
We need the policy for the sake of the environment, our future and our children.
Environmentalists say the plastic bag ban regulation has been a long time coming. The country has actually banned stores from giving away free plastic bags since 1999 as a measure for environmental protection. But it's clear the law was widely disregarded, with Korea's consumption of plastic bags nearly doubling from 12.5 billion bags in 2003 to 21 billion bags in 2015.
The typical South Korean uses about 420 plastic bags a year, and there's nowhere for these bags to go. In Finland, the per capita average is 4 bags a year. The EU's average is around 200 bags a year, but it's moving to half that number within the next 5 years. So Korea's new policy is a positive and much-needed change.
The Environment Ministry says the new policy could reduce the use of 2.2 billion plastic bags every year. South Korea joins dozens of countries which have imposed bans or taxes on disposable plastics to reduce their detrimental impact on our planet. Oh Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's total exports tumbled yet again in March, this time for the 4th month in a row. The Trade Ministry said on Monday the numbers for March fell by more than 8% on year to $47.1 billion. The ministry said falling semiconductor prices and China's economic slowdown were the main reasons for the slump. The country's imports also dropped 6.7% during the same period. South Korea saw a trade surplus for the 86th month in a row at $5.2 billion. Now, if you're watching us in Korea, you'll know that you're never that far away from kimchi. It's a must-have side dish for Koreans here and around the world. However, with more kimchi imports flooding in from China, locally produced kimchi has been taking a hit when it comes to sales. Now, South Korea is looking to do something about it. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Kimchi, a staple in Korean cuisine, is the most renowned Korean dish made from salted and fermented vegetables, most commonly Napa cabbage, with a variety of seasonings, including chili powder. There are hundreds of varieties made with different vegetables as the main ingredients. Even the art of kimchi making is part of Korea's unique cultural heritage. However, South Korea is now running a kimchi trade deficit as more Koreans are importing Chinese-made kimchi, with 40% of all kimchi coming in from China. According to the Korea Customs Service, in 2018, Korea imported $140 million of kimchi. That's a 40% jump compared to 2014. The increase is due to the price competitiveness, as 10 kilograms of kimchi can be imported from China for less than $10. According to a kimchi industry trend report published by the World Kimchi Research Institute back in 2017, the average unit price of Korean kimchi was $2.34, while the equivalent price of Chinese kimchi was a mere 81 cents. With domestic kimchi on a downward trend, the government has been actively promoting the domestic kimchi industry.
We'll focus on responding to increasing kimchi imports by improving the quality and safety of locally produced kimchi.
The government first plans to increase the price competitiveness of kimchi and increase the market share of the domestic kimchi market from 60% to 70% by 2022. In addition, more rest areas along the nation's highways will be supplied with domestic kimchi, while the military will also be given domestic kimchi. Also, to increase demand, South Korea will develop customized kimchi for children and the elderly. Starting in 2020, all domestic kimchi packages will display a kimchi quality indicator to show the degree of saltiness, spiciness, and the maturity of the side dish. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The South Korean government's efforts to fundamentally solve the fine dust crisis rumble on. According to the Environment Ministry, a group of civil servants pushing for the establishment of a national organization on the issue. They are going to be holding a signboard hanging ceremony today. Officials from related ministries are expected to thrash out the details, such as establishing regulations and compiling budgets as well. The committee is expected to launch within this month, and it will be composed of people from the government, industry, the academic field, as well as civil society. The high-stakes trade talks between China and the US are still ongoing. US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has been tweeting about the talks, essentially saying, so far, so good. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hong Yu. So we'd like to hear more about the progress made during this most recent meeting that happened in Beijing.
Well, Mark, China has decided to prolong the suspension of increased tariffs on vehicles and automobile parts made in the U.S. starting from April 1st. The Chinese Finance Ministry made this announcement on Sunday, 2 days after the 8th round of constructive trade talks with Washington wrapped up. The period of this suspension was not specified, but the Chinese Finance Ministry had previously suspended the tariff for 3 months from January 1st to March 31st, aimed at implementing the agreements by the two countries' leaders. This announcement came after President Trump announced that he had postponed an increase of tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese imports to 25% from 10% that was scheduled to go into effect on March 1st. The next round of talks will continue Wednesday, for which Chinese Vice Premier Liu He will visit Washington. In Ukraine, a comedian who gained popularity with a satirical TV show has taken the lead in the presidential election exit polls. As none of the 39 candidates received more than 50% of the votes, the top two candidates, comedian Volodymry Zelenskiy and President Petro Poroshenko, will go head-to-head in a runoff election later this month. Kim Yoo-sun reports.
The first exit poll in Ukraine's presidential election on Sunday showed comedian Volodymry Zelenskiy winning the first round with 30.4% of the vote. Incumbent President Petro Poroshenko came in second with 17.8%. The two candidates who have expressed their pro-EU stances are set to take part in the runoff election, slated to be held on April 21st, as no candidate received more than half the votes. Minutes after the exit polls were announced, Zelenskiy said he was very happy but stressed it was not the final result. Zelenskiy has no political experience aside from acting as president in his comedy series. He has appealed to young voters by reaching out to them via social media. Poroshenko, who's vying for his second term, is aiming to appeal to conservative Ukrainians. Former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko, who was one of the 39 candidates, refused to acknowledge the exit polls after winning 14.2% of the votes. Kim Yoo-sun, Arirang News.
Anti-graft lawyer Zuzana Kapitova made history over the weekend as she won Slovakia's presidential election, becoming the first female head of the state of the nation. In her acceptance speech, the 45-year-old thanked the voters not just in Slovak, but in Hungarian, Czech, Roma, and Ruthenian, in a show of unity with the country's minority groups. Despite having very little political experience, Kapitova's anti-corruption campaign struck a chord in a country still grappling with the murder of an investigative journalist in February 2018. Kapitova won over 58% of the votes, beating out European Commissioner Maros Sefcovic. Two rescued sea otter pups that have been stranded on a California coastline have found a new home at the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta. Mara and Gibson traveled in a private jet with animal care and veterinary staff to their new home. The aquarium says the pair will provide visitors the chance to make a connection and have a deeper understanding and respect for these animals. But first, they will have to adjust to their new environment before being introduced to their new sea otter friends that are already at the aquarium.
Time now for our daily segment, Life and Info, where we give you info about how you can go about your everyday life if you're watching us in Korea or anywhere else around the world, for that fact. So let's start here in Korea. Duty-free shops in the arrival terminals of Incheon International Airport are set to open to the public on May 31st. The customs agency said two small local companies, SM Duty Free and Entaz Duty Free, have been selected as the operators for South Korea's first arrival duty-free shops. The stores will sell cosmetics, perfumes and alcohol. The move is aimed at alleviating the inconvenience of having to travel with duty-free items purchased before departing the country. It's also expected to create hundreds of new jobs. In time for the 2019 KBO season, baseball stadiums here in South Korea are being fitted with cutting-edge ICT and 5G technologies to take fans closer to the action than they've ever been before. Lee Min-sun with more.
An unmanned robotic arm is throwing the first pitch for a local baseball team's first home game of the season. At another stadium, augmented reality sends a dragon flying over the field. Tech is more than a gimmick, though it's giving baseball fans new ways to watch.
With advances in 5G technology, this baseball stadium has added 54 cameras to capture important moments of the game from multiple angles and provide in-depth analysis.
Ultra-high-definition cameras provide simultaneous feed through 5G networks, which enable viewers to watch the game from different angles. Using this mobile app, viewers at home and at the stadium can replay key highlights from the game and zoom in for a closer look. A person sitting in the first base line can enjoy the view from the third base seat or directly in front of the pitcher's mound and even take a peek at the dugout. Cameras track and analyze the movement of the ball and players with motion tracking software, the first of its kind in Asia. It provides detailed information such as the flight course, airtime, and velocity of balls hit into play.
I like how I can use the app to watch from different viewpoints and re-watch run-scoring plays and home runs.
In addition to enhancing the viewer experience, newly installed Finders gauges measure the air quality in different sections of the stadium and sprinkle artificial rain to lower Finders levels.
The biggest advantage of using 5G in sports is that fans can enjoy baseball in a way they have never before. Up until now, people will watch broadcast games, but with our service, they can control what they want to see.
More baseball teams around the country are planning to implement 5G technology to enhance the spectator experience at their ballparks and to also provide more sports-related content. 이민선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, today is April 1st, as I'm sure you're aware, at least if you're watching us in this part of the world. And April is Science Month here in Korea, and the popularity of science is clear, with the total number of visitors to Korea's National Science Museum surpassing the 30 million mark, attracting more than 1.5 million visitors every year. The museum is hoping and helping to raise the profile of science in a country that already has a great interest in it. Park Se-young with more.
Since relocating to Daejeon in 1990, the National Science Museum has received more than 30 million visitors. The museum welcomes about 1.5 million visitors a year and is said to have broken new ground in Korea's history of science exhibitions. Visitors can learn about the history of science while taking part in a range of activities.
Aside from the hands-on activities, I like that there was a variety of displays with detailed descriptions.
The museum, open from Tuesday to Sunday and on holiday Mondays, offers free admission with the exception of some facilities. It also provides a free English guide program once a day for foreign visitors upon reservation.
I believe we've grown to become a world-class museum. I think that we should bring about qualitative changes and provide a variety of in-depth activities in the future.
By working to increase the popularity of science, the museum hopes to serve as a central hub for hands-on exhibits and scientific research in the future. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Rights to distribute the Korean film Money have been sold to 13 countries, including the United States, Canada, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. According to the movie's distributor, Showbox, the movie starring Ryu Jun-yeol and Yoo Ji-tae opened in North America on March 21st and is set to open in Taiwan, Vietnam, Singapore, and Hong Kong in April. Money will also be screened at the Hawaii International Film Festival's Spring Showcase from April 5th, along with other Korean films, Malmo-e, The Secret Mission, and Extreme Job.
Good morning. The sprinkled snap does not want to leave us just yet. The first week of April is kicking off on a cool note, and temperatures will be hovering below average for the first half of the week. Meanwhile, parts of Chungcheong-namdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces could see light rain of less than 5 millimeters during the day, while the rest of central regions could see passing flurries and sprinkles. Meanwhile, Daegu and parts of Gyeongsang-Buk-do province are under dry weather advisories. Most regions will enjoy partly sunny skies with good air today, and daily highs will be similar to a couple notches higher than yesterday in most areas, though ranging between 10 and 14 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country, so dress accordingly. And as the week goes on, we should see more spring-like conditions as temperatures will gradually rise and highs will hike up to the mid to upper teens with mostly sunny skies in the forecast. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. Until next time, goodbye.
The Chamber is the newest addition to Arirang TV's spring lineup, and it's a roundtable for the business world. We'll bring in some of the greatest panelists ranging from entrepreneurs, CEOs, startup experts, and financial specialists to have discussions on Korea's economy and businesses. Find out everything you need to know about the latest business trends. The Chamber.